So, Ankit was telling me a little bit about his work, and he's got some ideas he wants to present. Of course, Stefan is finishing up his GSOC submission, and I want to make sure everything is all set on that. Also, we have to rehearse the presentation for the INCF.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I've been revising the materials that I've produced during the GSOC period. So what can I include in the presentation? What can I maybe, what the accents should be, like how to bring up the material we've produced during the work time for it to be the most understandable for the general public and for the community. Yeah, right. So I'm working on it, and I would say, we could do a presentation, like we could do a tryout sometime next week.
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, that would be.
What days are you available next week?
Yeah, well, pretty much generally available next week. I think I'm going to depart for the conference at the 29th of August, so before Thursday would be basically great. I would say let's do it Wednesday, wouldn't we?
Okay. What time are you? It's probably, yeah. Let's see. I gotta convert the time, but let's see. I usually meet here in the morning, and then there it's like in the evening, so or late afternoon. So
yeah,
you're available
sure,
late afternoon?
Yeah, sure. Of course, totally.
All right. I think Wednesday. Okay. What about 5 p.m. your time? Is that a good time?
Yeah, well, you mean plus 3 because I'm in Russia right now.
Oh, you are?
It's gonna be 1 hour more difference.
So, I guess 6
p.m.
Okay.
So like 6 p.m. my time,
yeah.
like most Moscow time.
Okay.
Yeah, that will work. That will work, sure.
All right. I'll put that on the calendar. Okay. And then, so, in terms of GSOC, your submission, when are you planning to submit your final link?
Yeah, well, I'm planning to submit just because I've done it the last time, and it was basically suitable for everybody. So I didn't get any problems on submission. Well, it just went fine. Just submitting a list that would describe what our targets and goals were, what the general thoughts on the project were, and some steps describing the project's progress, our results, what we basically achieved, maybe some links to some useful stuff. I'm sorry, but I'm also providing my README file inside my repository. So I mean, this just what can also, of course, I'm sorry. Yeah, the weather is a little bit not that good in Russia right now. The gist would contain a link to my repository, so the user could basically just click on the link and he'll be forwarded to my repository where I have my README file as well. And the documentation. I've produced really a lot of stuff documenting the project. In the main repository, I'm still to do the pull request, but it will consist of Python notebook documentation. That's what I basically already done. It was in the last pull request already. I maybe change it a little bit. Then I've also produced code documentation. So, you know, Kotlin has some stuff like Javadoc. It's called Docker, that allows you to produce HTML format documentation, and I basically produced that. Just, you know, I've put it in a code directory in the documentation directory, so it's kind of documentation code, and there you can see all of the, you know, main classes, main methods documented and put in one place where you can click just between HTML pages, and you have all the links automatically in there. Fact. So that's also something that I've done this week. Right, and I've put this all in README file in the repository. I've also put there how do you start the application, maybe where you can find more information. There I will put, of course, also the link back to Gist, and maybe back to our, you know, to our GSOC project page, as it's stated in project submission guidelines from the GSOC. I've also put this link that's, you know, that it's a Summer of Code project, and you can find information about information about this project there, clicking on the link summerofcode.google.com. Right, so I'm kind of doing all the things that more or less, you know, more or less concise and not that easy, not that hard to set up and it's like deploy, and I'm interlinking them between each other so that you have kind of like a resources network about the project.
Oh, okay, that sounds good.
And documentation on various levels. Documentation about the simulation, like how do you run it, maybe also what is happening there technically. That's something that I've done in IPython notebook. Then you, of course, have also this in-code documentation that will maybe help you to understand what the separate classes and separate methods for. I've done it in code, of course, and then I've also run Docker, and it produced for me HTML documentation that you can just click on and like navigate there to see anything in one place without needing to browse the code yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm kind of, for submission, I will just do a gist that will summarize it all up. And in the gist, I will provide the link to codes, maybe the link, you know, just some basic information about the project. Also the link to Summer of Code project so that everybody knows that it's kind of a GSOC project. And I think it should be fine then.
Good. Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, and it's also the important note, last but not least. Yeah, last but not least, I'm submitting my simulation. I mean, I've deployed it as a jar, as a runnable jar file that you just can, you know, click on, or maybe run this Java jar command from the command line interface, and then you'll see what's happening there. So I think it should be pretty straightforward for the GSOC course, like how do you launch our applications, how do you see what's happening there.
Can you demo the what can you demo right now? Can you show what program is it? Like, can you show the jar file or the documentation to us?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, sure, of course.
That will be good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ankit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm showing my screen.
It can be shown in terms of in a simplest form. That's always good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so here's basically this README file that I've written. I mean, I just kept it pretty concise and to point, so that it's not that necessarily that big, and just describes, you know, where you can find the documentation here in that code. Then I also link this IPython notebook. Then I kind of like write how you will launch the jar and where is it. So we see that jar is there, and yeah. I will also link the gist when I'm done with it. I'm still to produce the gist with all of the informations. I will do it maybe like today or tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just README describing the whole thing. Then we have this, then we have this code documentation, what's new. I maybe open it better here.
Okay.
So that we can click on it. Yeah, so. Right, so have you seen the IPython notebook, or should I also launch it?
I don't think I've seen the notebook.
Show how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, right, so we can skip it. Yeah, so, right, so this is this ATR, this whole documentation describing maybe some technical decisions that I've undertook through the project.
Okay.
These are images for IPython notebook documentation, so basically resources, we could say. And this is this new documentation produced with Docker. It's it stands for the code documentation. So here we can really see all the packages, like various packages standing for various parts of the project. So for instance, we can click on the model documentation, and there we see all the classes that we have in model package. And you see there are also concise comments about each of the classes. We can click on the class, and then we kind of see all the properties that it has, all the constructors that it has with a description. Then we have functions and like object functions, well as a company object. Yeah, so we can basically see anything. If you work with code, we can just click on this HTML file, and it will open up all of the documentation that I've written in code in one place. Pretty similar to Javadoc.
Yeah. Oh, there's Jesse. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I like the way you've really presented it and everything.
Yeah. So yeah.
Looks very constructive.
Can you run the program real quick, or like the?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's what I'm on. So
okay.
we just click on the snapshot file. Should take a little bit of time to.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know, I'm running Windows here, that could be a problem to launch the jar, it's not that straightforward. Alright. Just okay. All right, so there's some problem with the jar archive.
Oh.
Because about this main class, I guess it's probably some problem with Gradle setup.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm going to fix this, of course, before I make the final submission.
Okay. Yeah. So it's good to debug before you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's I still have I still have to write the gist, which I'll probably do today or tomorrow.
Okay.
And then I will also look into this jar thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but apart from that, everything should work fine, I guess.
Yeah, it looks
So
good. Yeah, it looks good.
yeah,
Just make sure everything is in running, because I guess they require you to have it run for you to pass. So everything should start up without any. I don't know. Yeah, they. I don't know how strict they are, but you know.
yeah, sure, yeah. I will, of course, I will take care of it.
Okay. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. I like the fact that you have like, multiple ways you can run it, and you have the documentation laid out and everything, and it seems pretty clear, like from the technical details are pretty clear and everything. So, uh, Ankit, did you have any comments on it? On the
Looks good, looks very uh, like detailed, and as far as if that works well, finally it should be more than good.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope so too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so and also I'm just I've started the work. I'm just working on um, just making the window, constructing the window in the right way. So you guys are already done with that thing. So I'm actually not at par with you guys. So just hoping to construct the window and thereafter do take some motivation from your work and do things that I can do.
Sure. Like, you're welcome to look into it. Do you do?
Yeah.
Can I ask? Do you do a Python simulation or rather some Java thing?
No, it's mostly a Python simulation. So
Okay.
yeah, if you see my implementation plan, it says using some Python library to make a window, and thereafter using deep learning to assign labels, and thereafter uh, programming a decision maker based on that. So that's why I was just hoping to see. We don't have many simulations available for Braitenberg vehicle except that one from SimBrain thing, and so I was just looking for some simulations and what techniques that people use, and how do you make it to make a good visualization of the thing. So would work on that based upon what the work has been done, and yeah, so like that.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome to look into it. I mean, it's also to note that I've done a more like a Java thing simulation, so I've been using Java FX throughout the project.
Yeah.
So maybe like the Z is the one who's been using Python all the time, and like he has a pretty good user interface up to the moment. So you maybe want to look into his work. It's also Python. I mean, maybe libraries he's been using or something. Maybe it'll help.
Exactly. So and that's why I asked you to present something in the simplest form, that is in form of a jar file that is executable. So it's like the general people get to know what exactly is happening in the thing. So.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's also good. I don't know if such thing exists in Python or not. It's
actually the thing that I just worked upon is processing. So there, it looks like very much flexible. Like you can convert the Java code, like even the Python code, to directly to some P5.js, which is JavaScript file. So you can put it on web, or you can put it as an Android file. So it actually looked very much flexible to me. So just felt like it could be the right fit for my project, for my simulation in Windows.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, Jesse, did you have any questions for Stefan, or did you have any? You kind of came in the middle of his. You didn't really, the demo part. You didn't really run the program, but like he was.
Not really, but everything looks really good though. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. So you'll be submitting, and then Stefan is going to do a dry run for his INCF presentation later this week. And then, good luck at the conference. I hope this, I hope the demo goes well for you. And
yeah, thank you. Sure.
Yeah, that's just from my side.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Ankit, you wanted to talk. Well, you talked a little bit about your idea for. You were talking to me earlier about implementation. So it's kind of interesting. You want to do a deep learning approach, and you want to classify images and text.
Yeah. So, I was mostly concerned about this representing multiple type of stimulus in a 2D window as far as that is concerned. So, if I'm trying to represent lots of images or sounds or text, it won't be it won't be a good option if I directly put the image in a 2D window, which is on a desktop. It's very small. So how do you you should get a feeling that the vehicle is getting influenced by this image. So this is actually getting influenced. So it's getting away from it or things like that. So what I felt was to classify different type of stimulus. This is my first approach to represent stimulus in the environment. So what I felt was to classify different type of stimulus type. Firstly, image, sound, and text, and represent them some kind of symbol. Say for that matter, in the simplest case, triangle, rectangle, or square. So if I hover over that through my mouse cursor, if I hover over that square or that any shape, so I get to know the details of the stimulus, and so I'll actually know that why that vehicle was behaving in that way. So this is the first approach, and second approach was to directly put the images into the 2D window that we have, and then zoom in to get the features of the stimulus that is present. So that is also an option. I'll see what fits the best, and then we'll work according to that. And the deep learning approach that I talked about is to the images and audios and the text, they will be trained on some neural network, and then we'll assign some labels, and based on those labels, the vehicle behaves in expected manner. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So let's see. So you're kind of maybe even thinking about this in an agent-based manner. So you have all these vehicles, and they're classifying or they're identifying these stimuli.
Yeah.
Is that
so
basically?
That's what the original idea was, that a vehicle enters the environment, and thereafter encounters several stimulus, and thereafter processes those stimulus, and the internal wiring changes accordingly. So it means it's a collective response of the whole, due to the whole set of stimulus, and the vehicle behaves as it should be in that case.
Okay. Yeah, and then so the deep learning part would be just sort of pre-processing the stimuli, or would it have anything to do with the vehicles?
It will be it will represent actual vehicles are processing the thing, but I can do it simultaneously, that it is noting down the vehicles in the environment, and simultaneously it's getting results, it's getting trained, and its behavior is changing. But in that case, I don't know how it will be working. But in the second case, I will be, just like you said, pre-process the stimulus, and then just assign a label to them. So then when a vehicle encounters an image, it just based on its model trained, it gets to know that it gets to assign the label associated with that stimulus, so, like that.
So would you have like what would you do? How would you design the vehicle to ensure that it could like identify the stimulus? Is there like what about the brain of the vehicle would be like enable that sort of thing? Is it just like pattern recognition, or is it like is there something else in there that you can envision?
So as far as for different type of stimulus, there will be different algorithms. For images, there will be like image classifiers, and then we'll classify into different labels, and based on the label, the internal wiring, the weights that I talked about that day, the weights would be changing. So for like particular weights for coordinates behavior, because that is crossed, I guess. So those weights will be increased in the case if label is coordinates provoking or something like that. We need to discuss about the labels firstly, how many types of labels that we want to define and things like that. Before that, let me just finish with my with my window, and then we can discuss about those things later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Stefan, did you get my idea what I'm exactly trying to do?
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Yeah. It's reasonable. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Exactly. Firstly, let me construct my window and environment in the new library that I told you. Then let's see how do I do it. Yeah.
Good.
Did you already like write the core for deep learning, or you still have it in your plan?
No, that's the later part. That's the most important part of the plan, right? But I guess there are lots of libraries already written for image classifiers. So if the situation arises, if you want to get more type of stimulus, like there are lots of programs, lots of algorithms, image classifier algorithms for dogs and cats, and lots of things like that. But for that matter, if the situation arises, if you want to like make the system more complex, I can write the code for more complex image classifiers, and then sound classifiers, and then text classifiers for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from my, I mean, it could be good that there are some image classifiers, but from my own experience, like working with this Braitenberg Vehicles, I would still, like, the one advice I could give is to first look into the library and maybe try to think about, like, whether you could achieve a goal that you have in your eyes with this exact library. Because I've done this, so maybe you can remember this, Dr. Alicia. I've wanted to write kind of like some data analysis stuff in a library called Karabis, and it was also like I was expecting pretty much from this library, because they had a good, very interesting description, also very inspiring description that you can do some like data visualization using your R version that you have locally on your computer. And of course, R is great for visualizing stuff. That's why I thought, okay, that must be a good library, and I will be alright using that, and that would be totally good. But then when I've approached this library and started to work with it, I've just understood that, because of the variety of reasons, because of my operating system of my computer, also maybe stuff that I have to do, maybe how do I want to do it, the way I picked, it's kind of pretty impossible to do with this library. And like, since I could well change it, but this library was also kind of hard-coded, so that you couldn't really change any of the problems I had with it. So I just had to use some other library, which is maybe not that good, and not that promising, but still, like, I couldn't do anything about this library that I picked first, because it was hard-coded and it was kind of not really that modifiable. And it was not not that I needed just because of my operating system, basically. So I mean, the next time I'm working with some library and I say, okay, I will maybe use this or that, I will just quickly take a look into this library, maybe try to code something with it, try to run something, maybe some example project, and then say, okay, either this library works and it really does what I want to do, or it's not.
Cool. So
after this experience, I think it's always better to first look into the library and then say, okay, I'm going to use it or not. That's
So for that matter, in that case, if I get into some kind of trouble with some very fascinating library, I'm just looking for some very simple classifying functions, classifying algorithms, image classifying algorithms. So I think some of my friends have already written the basic cat dog classifiers and things like that. So I might get some help from them too. And I was always like the previous prototype environment that I just created. I was not very much satisfied with the thing, and also in the present thing that I'm present environment that I'm going to, it's not that much satisfying. But still, if the idea and the background details are clear, it doesn't matter, because if we are not actually very much concerned about the visual API or 3D modeling or things like that, but the real idea that is behind. So if that is being fulfilled, I don't think so it won't be much of a problem. So that's why I thought like what you guys have created and how good that it looks on the interface, and so based on that I'll complete my work. I've just started.
All right. Yeah, much success with that.
Yeah.
I wish you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it sounds good so far. I would say, there's a lot of there seem to be a lot of good options for deep learning now. So, that's something too that, like, there are pre-made platforms for doing these things. But from my other group that I've been working with, I've found that some of the platforms, like say OpenCV or like some of the other open deep learning models, they're not. They just don't come out of the box sometimes. Sometimes you have to work with them to get them to work. It depends on your problem. So that's something else to watch out for. But I think it sounds like you've got, once you get going, I think you've got things in place. Like I said, it's sort of reminiscent of an agent-based model where you have a bunch of agents that do something in the environment. And people, before like deep learning and machine learning even, people were doing things like swarm programming, where they used a bunch of agents to like explore a fitness space or some other problem space, and then the agents would converge upon solutions. So like you like, it's like a swarm of bees or something like that, where you have a bunch of agents that are working towards a common goal, and then they find these solutions. They kind of converge upon solutions, and then you'd evaluate the solutions. So I mean, there's that sort of tradition, but I think I think your approach might be might be an interesting way, sort of, to do image classification and things like that. So
so actually I was looking some video of like Braitenberg hardware simulation of the Braitenberg vehicles of some place like maybe MIT. So what they did was they were showing light, like they were flashing light at a spot, and they actually made some real vehicle, and then the vehicle was actually following the path. So just to simulate that thing in a window, just like we can, given our constraints, we can just represent those images in form of something, or and do things based on that. Otherwise, represent that thing in real 3D is so that will actually distract us from our like basic simulation and models. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that will take a lot of effort also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for 3D, I saw some Blender library in Python. I think in that we could do it, like we could make it look like 3D, but it was looking a bit complicated. And some of my friends have worked with Blender, and they told that that was not a good experience for them. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about processing for 2D, just the 2D case. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, processing is pretty versatile from what I understand. Only
Yeah.
used it on a limited basis, but it's you can do a lot of things there.
And and the most important thing was the flexibility to convert it into from Python code to Java code or from JavaScript code, or like make an exe file and run it on Windows, just like Stefan is making a jar file and doing it like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. So like I feel the output product must be understandable for the general public, so that they see that what exactly is happening. And as far as visualizing the thing in the real world is concerned, so I actually try to do it in that way, but just taking everything in a 2D window, so we are constrained with too many things, so we have to use some visualization techniques or some representation, just like I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I hope if you have any better idea of doing that, it would be good for me. I was actually looking for something like that. So I thought a lot, and then just came out with something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so Jesse, do you have any thoughts on this?
None other than what's been said, but I think it's very interesting, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah. So I guess that's now another thing I like to bring up. So this is the end of the GSOC period. But I still want to, if you want to continue these meetings, I'd be happy to do so. Because we're still kind of working on things. I don't know what your schedules are for the fall, but why don't we keep meeting? Is that fine with everyone?
Yeah, that could be good.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
Yeah, and I've just started the work, so I would be needing some support from you guys.
Yeah. and maybe Ankit would be interested in this one. So the other group I work with is the Openworm Foundation. So there's a group I organize called EvoWorm, and we're interested in machine learning for like biological images. And so we're starting an interest group. Like we're gonna meet, I don't know, weekly or something, and it's gonna be topics in machine learning, but for like images, image processing, and things like that. So if you are interested, you can join that group. Interact with people in that group. I don't know who's going to be in the group yet, but we're still kind of organizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I just have to also wanted to say one thing. That is, of course, that's after the GSOC period, I'm going back to work in the lab, where I've been working before. So I will just try my best to be on all the meetings, but I can't, of course, say that I will be. So maybe there are one bunch of times there.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
We might if we might have to find another day or something. I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you guys. And then I don't know. Like, it's a different phase of the development. If like Stefan and Z wanted to work on like a new phase of the development where, you know, maybe you're thinking about use cases instead of like, you know, the different aspects of development, where it's just a little bit more like, what can we do with this platform instead of like developing the basic platform, because that's kind of done now. So, I mean, there are a lot of ways we can do that. But, you know, I'd like to be able to see if we can, you know, get this to, you know, more than just a GSOC project too. You know, to see if people would actually use it, and if there's some potential for other avenues, like getting it out into the community. When you go to INCF, you're going to be making some connections, Stefan, with people. They'll be interested in it in various ways, I'm sure. So we have to sort of, you know, think of how to, you know, if we can leverage that, because it's, I think this is really exciting work. So, you know, we'll see how that goes.
Let's see what feedback from the INCF will be. Yeah. And then we all can discuss this whole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure. So Stefan will be presenting the thing in some kind of conference, INCF conference?
Sorry, no, it's called INCF. It stands for International.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So,
I will.
Yeah. So in my case, actually, my semesters are on. So I'm working beside those things. So I'm only available in places when my exams will be going on. So my next semester's exam will be starting from 10th of September, and then end semester will be again starting from 10th of November. So in these 2 months, in the middle of the month, I won't be available for the work, or for the rest of the time I'm available, because the workload is not that much, and I can manage to just do this thing parallelly along with the academics at my university.
Yeah, definitely. So it would be September, November, or the middle of the month, or.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that exams will be going on for about 10 or 15 days. So I'll inform you about that if once something like that happens.
Yeah, we can just do it that way. Okay. And then why don't we do one last, or why don't we check the board here, just to make sure that we have any outstanding issues we want to address. So there's the board, our group meetings review on the repo. Actually, I'll share my screen as well. Oh, not that one. Present now. And there we go. Okay. You can see the board now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a lot of things done, of course. We have the in progress and to do. So in progress. So this first issue is number 52. Jesse, he made this cybernetics channel on Slack, so we can put that in done. We were talking about this last night. We had there's a new channel in Slack called Cybernetics. So he's posting a lot of readings on cybernetics and everything. Okay, so the number 32, check Stefan's Trello board. I was checking it over, so I got a couple of notifications via email, so that's good. Number 34, create a list of data export and persistence attributes. So this is, this was just for the program, for the Stefan and Z. So Stefan has done this, I imagine, for his submission. And Z, well, we have to talk. He missed his flight got canceled back to Pittsburgh today, so he's not with us, but you can ask him later. Number 22, defining fitness function in the context of behavior. Is that still a relevant issue to anyone?
Sorry, can you repeat what's that?
Oh, defining fitness function in the context of behavior, number 22.
All right. Well, it's always sexual, so you can improve it all the time, like as I've said.
Okay. Oh, Jesse, is that still relevant to you, or?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then number 45, develop use cases. So that's something that we're kind of working on with Stefan and Z, and that's in progress. Any more thoughts about that? I know you've been busy with the submission, GSOC submission, but...
Yeah, well, I find this salesman problem use case pretty cool. Okay. That's maybe the next thing I will do there.
Yeah. And we have to check with Z about his interest in this because we mentioned this last time. Number 25, create a list of visualization tools and solutions. So that's again on the GitHub repo. And you're free to add to that list. Then there's another issue by Jesse, number 31, research agent mapping, perception, and representation of environmental space.
Yep, that's still in front of us.
Okay. Number 33, that's create the presentation for the INCF demo. That's in progress. We're going to do that this week. Okay. And then number 36, a deep dive into Evergood regulator theorem. So that's actually something we were talking about last night with Jesse. So yeah, that's in progress. Do you want me to add to that issue at all, or?
No. I almost wonder if it could be done because we did start it. And I don't know if I should be putting the EGRT stuff here or not, but I made a bunch of new ones in the to-do, as you can see. Okay. So I wasn't quite sure how to go about that, but there are things on my to-do list in that sense.
Oh, well, yeah, we can, because I don't really have a board for that, so why don't we just do it here? It's easier to do.
And it may actually eventually be applying to what I'm doing with regard to Braitenberg Vehicles anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the create presentation for NCF demo is done or in progress, do you think? Probably. Stefan?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm on it.
Okay. We'll just, yeah. Share resources and implementation ideas. That's in progress. Find data set references. That's in progress. So then to do, we have a bunch for Jesse and I think one for Z. So we'll just go through those really quickly. So the EGRT paper, investigate trust modeling. That is, that's to do. We were talking about that last night. Then the EGRT lit review.
You could probably put that one and the one below it into in progress because they technically are things that I'm doing.
Yeah. So the lit review, as I said last night, you actually have there are options for this. You actually have knowledge maps that you can use, as well. So you do the lit review, find references, and I don't know how you do lit reviews. Are you familiar with like Zotero or one of these other platforms? Yeah. Okay, so so use a reference manager so we can get the references sort of in a format where we can look through them easily, and then eventually we'd like to maybe convert this to a knowledge map, and we have actually a repo of knowledge maps on the organizational GitHub, and I've just been collecting examples from different fields, so that's something that you might take a look at. And then the read ethical regulators and super ethical systems, that's that Mick Ashby paper. Is that to do or in progress?
That's in progress.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just one question that I have is, how do you proceed with this, like, reference manager? Do I understand it right that you could just correct all the reference from an article that you're reading and then kind of look over them?
So yeah, it depends on the reference manager. Like Zotero, it's like a plug-in to your browser, and if you find papers that you like, you can put them into the reference manager. I sometimes use Mendeley, which is another option. And
okay,
yeah,
okay, so kind of like you can collect the papers that you like and put them on the favorite list, right?
Yeah, you just upload them into the system, and it takes out the title and authors, and then you have a list of these. So
yeah, it's very easy for creating like citation lists and doing sort of collecting references and having them all formatted uniformly. So
yeah. Okay,
yeah. So then one more issue here: list scientific guiding research questions in new Slack channel.
I guess I still have to do that technically.
Oh, that's fine.
So that's insane to do.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so then Z has one here: train BVs and put them in new environment. But we'll ask him when he's here. So that's the board for now. Are there any other things that we can think of that we want to add to the board? I don't think we have anything immediate. Ankit may have a couple things he can add in. I don't know what those would be.
Yeah, I think I will add some. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna. I think I'll add some things regarding over this next week, because especially if given that there's kind of the open extension of the Braitenberg Vehicle group that I do want to participate in, I think I'll add some more of my own specific goals in the coming week. But I'll have to say that much for now, because then we're gonna go.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Just
the last comment from me, I will also put an issue there when I'm ready with my gist and the whole submission stuff, so everybody who wants can look over it. I mean, I will maybe do it myself when I'm ready with it, to give you a note, just so that you know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, and by all means, I'm going to submit tomorrow at maybe somewhat 9 or 10 p.m. UTC.
Okay, yeah,
like
that would be good. Just to have like a little bit of time, because you never know if there's a glitch in the submission system. That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, Ankit, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, or?
Not for the time being. Let me just complete the implementation of environment, and thereafter I can think of adding the things here. Because
okay.
Yeah, and I had a query about in the proposal. During the proposal period, I read somewhere that this project will be helping somehow in animal connectomes. So I was actually curious, how is this going to help in connectome project or animal connectome?
Well, I mean, what we can do here is, in terms of what Z and Stefan are doing, they're actually creating like a connectivity matrix from like these interactions. So the idea is to look at how those form based on how they're interacting with stimuli in the environment. And then, you're getting a sense of maybe how connectomes start to associate, or how like neurons associate with one another when they're interacting with their environment. So I mean, and actually we have some connectome data up in the repo, and the connectome data, is based on I think one is actually a artificial organism, but the others are like from biology. And so, ultimately, maybe an ultimate goal is to maybe understand how that process works, of how neurons connect together to do things like process information.
Okay. So, thanks for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for meeting. And if you have any questions, contact me on Slack. And good luck with your submission, Stefan. And
thank you.
We'll talk to you next week.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Have a good week.
Bye.